Good day, everyone. Welcome to Episode 1 of the summary series for Ghost Frontline 1. If this is your first time watching this series, I do recommend to begin at Episode 0, where I go over very important historical context. But in case you decide not to, here's a rundown on how this summary series will go. I will be doing my best to provide this summary as a storyteller, so it may get a little dramatic at times. That said, I will be leaving out anything that I deem purely superfluous. This is why, while comprehensive, this is a summary and not a retelling. If you deem this unsatisfactory, there are more ways to learn about the story. Links for all of these methods are in the description. Episode 1 will focus on Arc 1 of the story. Episode 2 and onwards will focus purely on events afterward. Before we get into the summary proper, I'd like to ask everyone watching to please subscribe, like the video, and consider becoming a member to support the channel. Now, let's get started. The story of Ghost Frontline 1 begins proper on the year 2062 and is set in Area S09 within Eastern Europe. You are the commander, and it is your very first day on the job. First, some context on who the commander is. Let's get the most contentious detail out of the way first. The commander does not have an assigned gender, and this is highlighted further in Ghost Frontline 2. You can make arguments for either side, but the developers have gone on record multiple times stating it is a player choice in the story. That said, for the sake of this summary, I will be referring to the commander as a male, because that's what I personally picked. Moving on, if you're from Ghost Frontline 2, the commander is well known as his own developed character. This was not the intention at the beginning. The commander was completely silent with very little agency in the plot. This doesn't get addressed until the end of the first arc, where I guess the writers realize they would have a much stronger story if they move away from the silent protagonist trope. Nowadays, he is the biggest driver of the plot. He also has his own history, though I will refrain from speaking about that, because the story treats it as a pretty big reveal. That said, it is well known to everyone that the commander does have military training, and he even proves it in a number of cases. Furthermore, he loves coffee, constantly overworks himself to the point of sleep deprivation, and is well educated. He has a decent sense of humor, but is vicious on the battlefield. Since he is a silent protagonist at the very beginning of the story, I will be forced to fill in some gaps, because the story does assume the commander does things off screen. I think that's all I need to say about him, so let's move on. Anyway, on the first day of the job, the commander meets Kalina, the logistics officer of Commander's unit. Despite her very casual appearance, she's very savvy and has been on Griffin for a few years longer than the commander. She prefers being called Colleen for short, and openly desires the commander to do so from the very beginning. After going through a single training exercise, they get a call from their commanding officer, Helianthus. Called Helion for short, she explains to the commander what his enemy is, Sanguis Ferry. Originally, SF was a production company that supplied some of the strongest T-dolls to PMCs. However, the dolls went rogue and killed all humans in their factory and took over. Ever since then, SF has been expanding their territory and indiscriminately attacking humans. SF has been deemed a threat to humanity, and with Griffin being the PMC closest to SF's territory, they have been assigned to destroying SF. As luck would have it, there has been an increase in SF attacks in Area S09, the same area Commander was stationed. So he has been assigned to investigate this matter. This leads to the commander sending his patrol units to rescue damaged T-dolls, and this led to him defeating one of the SF ringleaders, Scarecrow. Upon her defeat, Hellion questioned Scarecrow, who let her know that she tortured one of the Griffin T-dolls. Griffin T-dolls are unable to lie, and can only scramble the truth with riddles. So it was only a matter of time before Scarecrow deciphered this, and she had figured out the location of a T-doll named M4A1. After she sent this data to her SF partner, she self-destructed. The commander was assigned to continue his patrol duties. though some time after this he was contacted by 16 Labs head researcher Persica. 16 Lab is Griffin's primary R&D, but more importantly, Persica is the one who designed the second generation of T-Dolls, which is what is currently in service. Oh, and I'm sure you are all wondering, but the cat ears are just custom headphones. Through her suggestions, Commander's forces were able to find a recording of M4A1. Through this, we learned that she has been on the run for the past 70 days, and she estimates she's running out of time. After providing this information to Griffin, Hellion reveals to the commander that M4A1 is the leader of the AR team, a highly advanced squad of T-Dolls under the direct supervision of Persica. M4's neural cloud, which is the mechanical mind of the T-Doll, was carrying information that was highly sensitive. This makes her a high-value asset not only to Griffin, but also to SF. However, there is a lot of red tape in the way that stops Griffin's main forces from being pulled from their locations to assist. Therefore, Griffin HQ handpicked the commander to rescue M4 with the utmost haste. M4 was being chased by SF ringleader Executioner, and if not caught in time, there was a high likelihood that M4 would be subdued. After quickly mobilizing, the commander's forces did find M4 doing battle with Executioner, and she was on the ropes. However, the timely rescue easily turned the tides. While Executioner was shocked by this outcome, M4 let her know that she baited Executioner into fighting her, as she had faith that Griffin would not abandon her. Executioner then threatened M4, stating SF had other ways to capture her, as she still had 3 other sisters on the run. This caused M4 to kill her without hesitation, and then address the commander directly, asking for his help to save her teammates. And this is where M4A1 and the AR team can be properly introduced. The full name of the squad is the Anti-Rain Team. The squad leader is M4A1, and the other members are M16A1, ST-AR-15, and M4 Softmod 2. Together, they are a commando unit that handles elite-level operations. These 4 T-Dolls were built directly from Persica's hands, and she has a vested interest in their success. Their objective is to locate a place called Safe House Number 3, and to retrieve research data from a dead researcher named Lycoris. M4 managed to find this data and upload it into her neural cloud, but as she did this, the AR team was attacked by SF ringleader Agent, the strongest of them all. The AR team managed to escape, but SF was very hot on their trail. In order to get SF off their trail, it was agreed to split up, with M4 begrudgingly agreeing to flee to find a commander of Griffin. This is how M4 met with the commander. It is assumed she explained this to him, and it is also assumed that M4 is involved in several missions before the major story beats. This is important because Persica does mention that M4 began to place a lot of trust in him, and M4 herself states that he is very good to her and wishes to remain active under his command. Some of these miscellaneous missions are playable, but they are very light on dialogue. Eventually, M4 got a message from her other squad mates. Turns out, the Executioner was not bluffing. SF was doing their damnedest to hunt them down. After alerting the commander, he got approval from Griffin HQ to rescue the rest of the AR team. This led to M4 reaching a rendezvous point, where she reunited with Softmod. M16 and AR-15 had separated to shake off their pursuers, and Softmod was tasked with retreating with M4. However, M4 assured her the commander and his forces would be more than enough to decimate SF and save the others. This was proven with the next several encounters, where Softmod was able to let loose and show that she is actually extremely bloodthirsty, quickly letting the commander know that she loves to keep body parts of her enemies as trophies. While M4 was bothered by this, it seems the commander approved of this behavior. Thanks to this, Softmod quickly became attached. Soon after, they were contacted by ringleader Hunter, stating that she had captured AR-15 and would let her go in exchange for M4. While this was being decided on, the SF outpost became completely vulnerable, as the SF T-Doll suddenly went berserk. The commander took advantage of the sudden opportunity, and the Griffin forces assisted AR-15 in destroying Hunter. After rescuing AR-15, it was quickly learned that she was significantly more serious than the previous squad mates, telling M4 to never exchange herself for anyone ever. Some time passed after this, and M16 finally contacted M4. This was only brief, as M16 quickly had to go offline. M4 was then contacted by ringleader Intruder, provoking her into a battle. The commander backed up the AR team, and with combined forces, they took out Intruder and her supporting army. After her destruction, M16 made herself known, being very casual. This was met with M4 smacking her across the face. M16 is known as the big sister of the team, but that is especially true for M4, as she truly sees M16 as her older sister. The thought of M16 dying truly put M4 in distress. They reconciled though, and after returning to base, M16 addressed the commander, stating that she got a warning. Something big was coming, and they would have to prepare. After this, it's unknown how much time passed exactly, but it would have to be substantial. To jump ahead for a moment, the story will tell us that Arc 1 is over the time span of 2 years, though that number has been contentious. In the later chapters, the developers will say Arc 1 is just 1 year, though that would directly go against the writing in the game itself. So to compromise, the best thing to do is say the AR team and the commander spent an unknown amount of time together. This is important because the story will make it clear that the AR team is extremely loyal to the commander in particular, and this will be told to us directly in the next major story beat. Sometime later, the commander was invited into an in-person meeting with Hellion and senior commanders at a top-secret hideout. Before the meeting, Hellion informs the commander that Persica found out that SF has a plan codenamed Paraplui. This is what prompted the meeting so everyone involved could receive this new information. But before the meeting could start, SF ambushed the building with a massive artillery strike. The attack was so strong that the commander was blown back and knocked out, only hearing M4's cries over the communicator before everything went quiet. The commander's forces, including the AR team, rushed to the secret base to mount a rescue. During this time, the commander woke up, and he gets his first meeting with the big boss himself, Berezovich Kruger. After checking to see if he was okay, he provided the commander a handgun, telling him that he needs to get to safety, and then take command of his forces. Kruger then left the area to fight SF. The commander got back on his feet and got to a command station and began commanding his forces. With time, Griffin was able to push back SF. Afterwards, M4 rushed to the commander completely distraught, asking if he was okay. But before they could have a real heart-to-heart, Kruger returned. This caused M4 to straighten up, and after being dismissed by Kruger, she left the area, but not without looking back to the commander as if he could disappear at any moment. Kruger complimented the commander, stating that he must have been doing a very good job taking care of M4. He then explains that M4 is a very special T-Doll, and one day she will prove herself to him. But for now, it was time to address a very serious situation. Kruger informed the commander that knowledge of this meeting was extremely limited and hastily done. There was no way SF could have obtained the knowledge of the meeting so quickly, which only meant one thing: there was a mole. After a thorough investigation, which involved raiding a nearby SF base, it was soon learned the mole was ST-AR-15, but not of her own free will. As it turned out, before AR-15 was rescued, SF planted a virus inside her, which effectively made her transfer any data from herself to SF. This caused a major problem. For context, under most circumstances, T-Dolls are virtually immortal. The neural cloud of a T-Doll is basically just data, so this data can be backed up and placed in any new body. So when a T-Doll dies, or becomes infected, they can be returned to a previous state. The AR team, however, are an exception. These specific T-dolls possesses a set of neural clouds that are more advanced than the normal T-doll. Due to this, their neural clouds cannot be backed up, so the destruction of AR-15 will be permanent. With this in mind, as well as her high value as a T-doll in general, Griffin was bent on removing this virus while keeping AR-15 in commission. AR-15, however, had other plans, as she managed to escape custody from Griffin and fled the base. As a result, this turned into a retrieval mission, and thanks to the nature of the virus, High Command granted the order to use lethal fire on AR-15. While M4 did not like this implication at all, she told the commander that she and the AR team will follow his command without hesitation. The commander then responded to her by saying, no matter what he decides, they have to find AR-15 first. This ended up being harder than anticipated, as SF prepared artillery fire, as well as a signal jammer to cut communication. This elevated level of electronic warfare set them back dramatically. It would take many days later before they could make any true progress. This was especially tough on the AR team, as their special neural clouds also made them more in tune with their emotions. On one of the missions, M4 and Softmod managed to find AR-15 within a jammed area and took off. This, however, was a trap, and AR-15 attacked and disabled both of them. This led to Softmod being left behind while M4 was captured. M4 was then sent to a SF base, where she was interrogated by someone daunting. She was asked a simple question: who are you? She initially answered M4A1, a Griffin T-doll, but this answer was unsatisfactory. This small figure then stated, sure enough, the memory in your neural cloud completely mirrors that of AR-15, but this isn't what I want. After some time and very heated frustration on M4's part, it was understood that she did not know how to answer this question. AR-15 explained that 16 Lab encrypted a large amount of data within their neural clouds, and M4's true identity is so deeply encrypted that not even the virus can decrypt it. The SF doll then told AR-15 that she failed her end of the deal, and this will be handled another way. AR-15 was deemed useless, and SF ringleader Alchemist tracked her down and tortured her, demanding for M4's location. The commander's forces managed to create an opening for Softmod to land a surprise shot on Alchemist and kill her, freeing AR-15. Before AR-15 could be retrieved though, she provided Softmod data she had collected while she was captured, and stated she had to go back to stop the one behind all of SF. Under a true encounter, Griffin would have no chance of survival. When AR-15 ran off, M16 went after her, attempting to persuade her to return to base, but this failed. In fact, M16 only learned that AR-15 rigged herself with explosive, intending to blow away herself along with Mastermind. M16 found this to be too desperate and too extreme, but AR-15 was riddled with guilt. She caused too much trouble, and she wasn't going to risk anything more while she was still infected, yearning to live and die as a soldier. Once freed, AR-15 confronted Mastermind and declared she will destroy her for the sake of all she cared for. Mastermind commanded a large slew of SFT dolls and fired upon AR-15 to disable her, but she remained intact well enough to tell Mastermind to go to hell. The commander and the AR team soon discovered M4's location and mounted a rescue. After retrieving her, she realized AR-15 was not with them, and she felt her stomach churn. She rushed back towards the building she was held in, but then it exploded spectacularly. After Griffin inspected the aftermath, it was soon deemed there were no survivors, and AR-15 was among the casualty list. Griffin took a big loss from this, and as a result, any dolls who were on the rescue mission were put into a detention center in efforts to diagnose them and to clear them of any of the now called parapluvivirus. Naturally, this included the AR team. The commander managed to get approval to be moved close to the detention center, He performed patrol duty while he put in constant requests to see the AR team. Due to the nature of the situation, the best he could get was an audio recording from them, with M4 stating that they were okay and are looking forward to seeing him again. The commander returned a comforting message, knowing she was not fine at all. And he would be correct to be worried. While in the detention center, M4 was extremely agitated and close to melting down. It even eclipses Sophomaw's thirst for vengeance. The other Griffin T-Dolls in the area were agitated by M4's hostility, but before anything could be reconciled, SF had once again made a surprise attack and jammed the entire center, making it unable to make a distress signal. The detention center was also devoid of any commanders, which caused a major problem. Dolls require commands to function well, especially if they are not elite class. Despite their advancements, they do not have true autonomy and lack the ability to process information and make decisions as well as a human can. Elite dolls do have a command module, which gives them the knowledge to make tactical decisions and provide commands to lesser dolls. But the fact remains that they are nothing compared to the orders of a trained commander. Now, all of this can be circumvented through experience and training. Dolls do have the ability to learn and improve, but it's genuinely difficult for a doll to improve by comparison to a human. In short, without a commander, a lot of dolls become dead weight. This makes a signal jammer an extremely effective way to exploit the lack of intelligence in a doll, and SF started to have a field day. But there was a temporary fix to this. M4 has a command module, and not only that, she also has the same command efficiency as a standard commander. M16 pushed M4 to take charge, stating that she was the only hope for surviving this. While M4 was frustrated to be asked for the moon, she realized M16 was correct, and she steadied herself to play the role of a commander. Meanwhile, Hellion relayed the emergency situation to the commander and granted him permission to route SF's forces around the detention center. Thanks to M4's commands, the dolls were able to hold out for several hours. The commander's forces was able to clear out SF and block reinforcements. While the end was close, the Griffin T-Dolls were suddenly hacked and disabled, leaving only M4 standing. This was done by the Mastermind. She evaded M4's fire and latched onto her, stating that she would finish what AR-15 failed to do. Mastermind then hacked into her neural cloud directly, and went into depths so deep that it caused M4 to scream. Despite the commander's efforts, he was held back by ringleader Dreamer, leaving Mastermind with M4 for well over half an hour. This was more than enough time for Mastermind to realize that the encryption placed on M4's neural cloud was even well beyond her own abilities, and drastic measures would have to be taken back at the SF base. But before Mastermind could take M4 with her, the Griffin T-Dolls were suddenly restored, and they fired at Mastermind while Sophomore retrieved the now paralyzed M4. Once the retrieval was complete, the T-Dolls escaped. Mastermind, unable to chase them down, called for backup, but Dreamer's forces were destroyed by the commander. Out of options, SF was forced to retreat, much to Mastermind's disappointment. In the aftermath of the situation, the commander was able to meet the one who was able to restore the Griffin T-Dolls, RO-635. Named RO for short, this is the fifth and final member of the AR team. She was sent to a separate Griffin squad for additional training, but with everything that has happened, she was pulled back in. Furthermore, Persica gave RO some upgrades to handle the electronic warfare that SF was so reliant on at the moment, and it would be a large leap forward to equalizing the playing field. Unfortunately, the damage had been done. M4 was down for the count. The data in her neural cloud had been violently tampered with, and it had her completely disabled, unable to communicate. By the time Commander had reached the center, Persica had M4 delivered to her lab to restore her. This would take time. Therefore, RO had been designated as temporary leader of the AR team. To finish their conversation, RO told the commander that the one who attacked M4 was the true ringleader of SF, the Mastermind. Furthermore, These sudden attacks from SF are primarily dealt by artillery fire from a weapon called the Jupiter Cannon. These lethal weapons are not only destructive in nature, but is also an electronic attack that disrupts all signals. The velocity of the projectile is so fast that nothing Griffin has would be able to defend against it. For Griffin to have any chance of winning this war, they would need to devise a way to take out those cannons. Over the course of approximately 100 days, the commander entrusted and got used to RO's leadership. She confessed to him and the AR team that her absence has fueled her desire to avenge both M4 and AR-15. During these 100 days, the AR team had visited Persica to check on M4. On the way back to Griffin, their aircraft was attacked by a Jupiter cannon. Taking a hit, their aircraft crashed into the middle of the SF territory. Thanks to being T-Dolls, the AR team remained intact, but now they were in extreme hostile territory. Furthermore, they were unable to contact the commander. Despite RO's strong leadership skills, she began to panic when caught off guard, finding it difficult to make snap decisions. M16 and Softmod encouraged her to retain command and to just rely on them a bit more than usual. They navigated through the territory, but soon learned they were at the mercy of Ring Leader Architect and Ring Leader Gauger. The base they were in was littered with Jupiter cannons, as if it was a test site. This made evasion and escape near impossible. However, a team of Griffin T-Dolls came to rescue the AR team. Specialized for espionage, the T-Dolls disabled the power source of the cannons, allowing the AR team to make a break for it. They grouped up with the T-Dolls, but they were not out of the woods just yet. The group had to spend many hours avoiding a full-on assault from the ringleaders, and this was eventually successful when a Black Ops mercenary group called Squad 404 entered the fray. Squad 404 consists of 4 members: G11, HK416, UMP-9, and their leader, UMP-45. As a side note, there is a video that specifically goes into Squad 404, as they are extremely important to the story and are basically main characters in their own right. For the sake of time, the information specifically dealing with Squad 404 will be skipped. As they worked together, they held out until RO managed to alert the commander to their location. The commander's forces then stormed in like the cavalry and captured Ringleader Architect. And then the commander used all of his commanding ability to take out hundreds and possibly even thousands of SF forces, all to hold the defensive line long enough for Griffin to commandeer a Jupiter cannon, while dismantling the rest. During the commander's endeavors, Persica spent countless nights trying to restore M4's damaged neural cloud, but she was constantly running into a problem. Her personality had been altered, and she had become significantly more traumatized by the thoughts of others dying. Persica put M4's mind through simulations to restore her tenacity, but no matter how much of the odds are stacked against her, M4 would always find a way to sacrifice herself, even if it meant saving just one person. But what threw Persica off the most was M4 did not show any corruption in her mind. In other words, the choice to sacrifice herself has always been her own. What drove this home was the statement M4 made during the simulation. Isn't it a commander's duty to fight till their last breath for victory? I can finally serve with pride and honor, just like the commander. While it is common for a T-Doll to sacrifice themselves for a successful mission, the AR team is very different. They only have one life, and therefore it is an absolute necessity for them to survive. M4 choosing to sacrifice herself is actually a critical mission failure. But more importantly, it is very clear that this choice was greatly inspired by her deep admiration for the commander. While Persica couldn't understand why she was so influenced by him, there was no doubt in her mind that M4 would immediately put herself in life-ending danger if she returned to the battlefield in this state. During this rumination, Hellion informed her that Mastermind personally did this to M4 and has been deeply interested in capturing her for a long time. This is where Persica realized there was only one answer to restoring M4. Within M4's neural cloud were sealed memories. This is the encrypted data that Mastermind was trying to uncover. No one has been able to decrypt it, except for the one who encrypted it in the first place. When she did this, she booted M4 online and reminded her of who she was. However, M4 only saw blood in her hands. She began to fall into a traumatic state and scream, forcing Persica to shut her back down. She would decrypt her memories more and more, trying to not go too far, but the results would only repeat itself. After countless failed attempts, she was forced to make drastic measures. Persica provided another mission to the commander. This time, the objective would be to assist the AR team while they search for data deep in SF territory called File Number 7. During this time, the AR team would be working autonomously. This is because Persica needed the AR team, or more specifically, M16, to perform a secret mission that would force her to pay a very high price. During the mission, M16 makes it known to RO that she is a straightforward leader, and is even better than M4 for standard operations. However, M4's experience is second to none. When it came to trusting others, there was no one else like M4. But this wasn't meant to be taken as a critique. In fact, M16 went further to say that the two are extremely similar, and she'll grow to be as well-rounded of a leader as M4 is. When RO asked what exactly she lacks as a leader, M16 refrained from answering and told her to not think about it too much. The commander continued to keep the area clear, and Softmod downloaded File Number 7. It was then time to leave. M16 carried out the plan laid out by Persica, separating herself from the team. She made it seem like she had to stay back in order to hold off SF forces. In reality, she had to go to another location assigned to Persica in order to restore M4's neural cloud. To complete this objective, she would have to download data from SF's mainframe and transfer it to Persica. However, the security within SF's mainframe was drenched with the Parapluie virus. Therefore, linking herself to the network would undoubtedly infect M16 with the Parapluie virus. Both Persica and M16 made peace with this, and while Persica conveniently led the commander to search for M16 in areas away from the objective, M16 took the opportunity to transfer the data. Her final words to Persica was to tell M4 that, "No matter what I turn into, wait for me." As M16 completed what would be her final mission, her neural cloud began to break down. No longer able to move, she began to hear singing. She was then met by ringleader Dreamer. M16 was ready for her fate to end, but Dreamer told her to not be so ready to die. Mastermind wished to speak with her. Despite knowing of these developments, Hellion and Kruger kept it under wraps. M16 was deemed MIA, but the mission overall was successful. Both the ER team and the commander couldn't accept this, however, so with permission from Hellion, they continued to search for M16. This changed a week later, when the commander was recalled back to HQ to be pulled in one of the most important events ever for Griffin. Despite Griffin being on the forefront of battling Sanguis Ferry, Kruger has always seen that as a distraction. His true intention with the company is to be a shining beacon in a brave new world. For this to come into effect, Kruger solidified a deal with the Soviet military, broadcasting the combined might of the military and Griffin working together to protect the nation. This demonstration would not only make Griffin the most desirable PMC in the nation, but it will also ensure citizens that all PMCs could be entrusted with contracts regarding national security. But as icing on the cake, this demonstration of cooperation is under the guise of a joint operation to destroy Sanguis Ferry once and for all, with a frontal attack on their headquarters. Despite SF's technology, it would stand no chance to the full might of the military. Thanks to the commander's efforts on the front line, Kruger handpicked the commander to lead Griffin in this joint operation. The commander had to attend a banquet to be shown off to the military, and also to inform him of the grand scale of this operation. Throughout this banquet, he meets with Carter Petrovich Neustadt, the Major General of the Special Operations Forces Command, or KCCO for short. He commands the Russian Special Forces. Alongside him is Captain Jaeger Arkadovich Lebedev, the man who will be in charge of the military side of the operation. They spoke briefly about the information gathered by Griffin, including file number 7, which provided valuable information regarding SF's primary AI, Elisa. Elisa is the mastermind controlling all of SF, and is being housed on a supercomputer that once belonged to the late scientist named Lycoris. Lycoris was a brilliant young scientist who made Sanguisferi into what it is today, all because he made Elisa. The objective of this joint operation is the utter destruction of all of SF, except for Elisa, who will be captured and studied for future use. During their conversation, they are interrupted by Javier Wickens. Javier is the founder of the company called the Important Operations Prototype Manufacturing Company, also known as IOP, and they are the primary supplier for Griffin. While 16 Lab is the R&D for Griffin, they work as a subsidiary for IOP. Thanks to this, Javier is very familiar with both Kruger and Carter, but neither person were particularly enthused to see him. After leaving a very ominous hint to Kruger, he scurried off. However, he hired someone to slash everyone's tires in the parking lot to cause a scene, which caused Carter, who just happened to be the host of this banquet, to investigate. Javier then came back and sat down with Kruger and the commander to have a quick conversation. Javier let Kruger know that the joint operation is really a waste of time. If it weren't for Griffin's contracts holding back their main forces, Griffin could have taken out SF a while ago. Thus, the military's goal is to not destroy SF. While the military stated that they want SF's superior AI technology, Javier assured the Kruger that the AI's benefits are not worth such trouble, especially if all it amounted to was just some better dull technology. What they want instead is something that Lycoris built Elisa off of. This happened to be OGIS, a Soviet private military network that was built in the 1970s and 80s, but was discontinued due to its extreme invasion of privacy. At least, that's the story in real life. In Ghost Frontline, OGIS was actually discontinued due to its extreme ties to relic technology. This caught Kruger's attention, and Javier went on to say that the people that General Carter is working for are very against the idea of having a nation-transcending alliance with the rest of the world. Capturing OGIS is their first step in dissolving that. Javier then gives Kruger a very firm warning. Don't be the small bird caught in the midst of a storm. The storm will tear apart everything in its path, regardless of whether that small bird intended to be there or not. By this point, General Carter caught Javier and demanded that he leave. Before he did, Javier looked to the commander and told him that he looks to be a very promising soldier. They will most likely meet again in the near future. After that, he left the premise. Despite Javier's very ominous words, Kruger decided to carry on with the joint operation. After all, everything was already underway. It was too late to turn back now. But as a safe measure, Kruger appointed all command authority of every available Griffin T-Doll to the commander and told him to use his best judgment when handling this operation. During all of this, RO and SOPMOD continued their search for M16. For their troubles, they ran into SF ringleader named Judge, who was extremely durable and could not be damaged by the AR team nor the supporting Griffin force. Despite being able to easily defeat them, Judge's true goal was to find M4, so keeping everyone alive would surely draw her out. During this game of cat and mouse, RO and SOPMOD had taken some time to hide, and during this time they had to wait for orders from the commander. To kill time, RO asked SOPMOD to tell her stories about the AR team. Now, let's pause for a moment to talk about RO. RO-635 is the prototype of the third generation of T-Dolls. She is also the last member for the AR team, but she was only with them very briefly. During a simulated training session, RO was assigned as leader. While she completed the objective, she sacrificed their weakest link, M4, to do so. This caused the rest of the AR team to be flabbergasted by this, and AR-15 condemned her, stating she was a total failure. This caused a large amount of confusion to RO. After all, they are T-dolls, and T-dolls are expendable. So why was she condemned so badly? She confronted Persica about this, and Persica explained in simple terms that sacrificing M4 was a very bad choice. RO took this as an order to prioritize M4's safety, but Persica denied this. She clarified that she wants RO to make that choice for herself, and to understand why she must do so. She expanded on this, stating she wants to rely on her own choices on the battlefield. RO did not understand this at the time, and told Persica it would be just better if she programmed and installed whatever she needed out of her. Persica deemed that unsatisfactory. Instead, she made the choice to put her in live operations, to gain experience and knowledge and grow her emotions. Persica then told her, "Mix well with your friends and all kinds of human beings. Even I don't dare to make contact with those humans. You'll have to be better than I am to succeed." RO wondered if she was permanently off the AR team, but Persica assured her that she wasn't, and she will return when Persica deemed her ready. As for RO's assignment, she became a police officer, where she had to deal with a lot of disheartening cases. But during this time, RO got a message from AR-15, where she gave her a final message, telling her that she was sorry for what she said. She asked for forgiveness and told her that she was always an excellent member of the AR team. Shortly after, RO learned that AR-15 was destroyed. It's not certain if RO demanded to be reassigned or if Persica recalled her, but either way, RO was fueled with a vengeance to make SF pay for what they did. Persica, however, gave her one final test, where she had to lead a temporary squad called Pallet. Team Pallet had to secure sensitive information within a city that was being hunted down by SF. Turns out, a human had a document. What was on this document was never detailed to us, but it was important enough to have both Griffin and SF to try and get it. Team Pallet managed to get to the human first. However, one of RO's squad mates was told to destroy the evidence by a human who was severely injured. Despite the human not having any authority, Griffin T-dolls are compelled to follow this order as it falls under the extreme circumstance of a human being in danger. In other words, it's a logical exploit. RO managed to supersede this order by reasoning with the T-doll how erroneous it is. Despite the compelling nature of this order, she managed to do just that. With the mission completed, RO was allowed back into the AR team with Persica's blessing. But due to her long absence, she has no memories of M4. They apparently never even talked before this. To get back to the story proper, Softmod answered RO by telling her of the AR team's first training session, where M4 was so untrained and so pitiful that she spent the first 2 hours just learning commands, which is extremely unlike an elite T-doll. By the end of the session, she tossed a tear gas grenade so poorly that it bounced right back to the AR team. RO immediately understood that a T-doll should not be able to make such mistakes without just being outright defective. But Softmod hand-waved this by stating M4 is an experimental command-type T-doll. Regardless, she doesn't deny she was unreliable at the beginning. But Softmod turned this around, reminiscing of a time where she indulged in her desire to gruesomely dismember SF dolls with glee. This caused M4 to be disgusted and afraid of her. Thanks to this, Softmod grew very conscious of her tendencies. But it's literally something she cannot resist. In her words, it's like a dam burst open, and she wants to let everything out. This caused her to always wonder why IOP, and specifically Persica, made her this way. If her own leader was so frightened of her, and her other squad mates found her behavior repulsive, then wouldn't she be the most unreliable one? Obviously, the growing pains have subsided, and they're a powerful, functional team now. But this has led Softmod to be very pessimistic about herself, and deep down she wonders if M4 and the others truly love her. To this, RO explains that if they were any different, M4 would just be an ordinary T-Doll. It's because of who they are together that they are so strong, and they got to where they are with hard work and effort. Softmod is included in that. This cheered Softmod up, and RO was even more determined to bring the family together again. When the commander learned of RO and Softmod's predicament, he connected to the network and dispatched a rescue team. They grouped together and then got into a scuffle with Judge. At the end of the scuffle, Judge was recalled by Mastermind, who we now know is the AI, Elisa. With the military approaching the SF headquarters, Elisa has deemed it necessary to recall all forces to defend their home. This left RO and Softmod frustrated, as all they got for their troubles is M16's equipment case. It was then, when RO and Softmod were reaching their wits' end, that they suddenly ran into M4A1, who was much colder and laser focused than before. And that's where we will end this episode. I'd like to thank all of my members for supporting the channel, and I will see you next time.